give him a shot to do what?
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, a.k.a. The Shy Kid, and you are listening to the Shy Kid podcast presented by Give Us a Shot Network. We got a breaking news episode for you guys today. Obviously, I didn't expect to be doing this episode at this very point in time. Mike Powers and I were supposed to be going live in a few hours or whenever. So at some point tonight, talking about MLB trade deadlines, everything going on with Jazz Chisholm Jr. going to the New York Yankees. Was going to be super excited about it. I literally had my entire notes, my entire sheet, my topic list, everything going down, out the window. The Chicago Cubs have traded away Christopher Morel and two prospects in Ty Johnson and Hunter Bigge in exchange for Isaac Paredes from the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Paredes, for people who aren't familiar with him, he is one of the best utility knives that you could have on your system. I mean, he's able to play first, second, third, short, and he has some pop in his bat. So before we start going crazy saying fire Jed, this, and this, let's break down the trade as a whole. Let's talk about what we got in return for multiple prospects, really, when you break it down, because Christopher Morel is still so young and he has such a bright career ahead of him. Let's break it down, though. Let's get into it. Christopher Morel, the 2024 season. Before we unpack the trade, let's talk about why this happens. Christopher Morel was deemed the third baseman of the future for the Chicago Cubs going into this season. Craig Counsell seemed a little weary of that, a little questionable. Obviously, nothing was set in stone. You still have guys like BJ Murray, Matt Shaw, James Triantos in the minor league system. You got guys on the majors right now. P. Wizzy, huge grand slam last night. First pinch hit grand slam for the Cubs since David Bodie, which was really dope. But you have guys like, Miles Mastroboni, Nick Madrigal. You have all these guys on the roster. And Christopher Morel was tasked. He was the guy that you said was going to be the future of the hot corner in this season. Obviously, defensively, there are moments in time, as a little Marvel quote for you, moments in time where Christopher Morel looks like one of the best third basemen in all of baseball. And then there's other times where he looks like one of the worst third basemen in all of baseball. So there was a lot of inconsistencies this season defensively for Christopher Morel. Hasn't really found his spot in a position yet in Major League Baseball. Obviously, you could DH him, what have you, but he really hasn't found himself a position to really lock down and be the franchise cornerstone piece of whatever position that may be, whether that's in the outfield, whether that's second base, whether that's third base, wherever. Defensively, it really wasn't Christopher Morel's year, but it's never really been about his defense. His bat has always been what's kept him in this lineup. And this year, he could barely even bat his weight. Let's be real. Christopher Morel batting 199 on the year with 18 home runs. I believe he leads the Cubs in home runs, 51 RBIs, and a 675 OPS. It just wasn't the year we wanted from Christopher Morel. I myself went on record at the beginning of the year with my guy, Sheffield Shuffler, who does amazing things as well. We talked about it and said, I believe that Christopher Morel had the intangibles to be an all-star this year. And I really did believe that. I still believe he's on pace for 35 to 40 home runs. I said at the beginning of the year he was going to crack over 35. Right now he's at 18, at a little past the break. So he's got a couple more months of baseball left in him, and I could definitely see that happening, especially being on a new team. But, I think Morel's time in Chicago is unfortunate because I think where a lot of people saw the potential of him being the next Javi Baez, the similarities between the two, the swag, the electrifying performance, the bat, and what he brings, the fun, just the overall energy that Christopher Morel commands. It really does make this ball club fun. It really does because, I was on, we were doing a War Media podcast the other day. With my guys, Saul, Gabe, and Miles, and they had me on the show, and I talked about it. This team is bland. This team is boring for the majority. Other than Christopher Morel, Shota Imanaga, and Justin Steele, there isn't a lot of hype. There isn't a lot of swag to this team. It's a lot of guys, blue-collar guys, going to work at the end of the day. But, you really do get that from Christopher Morel. He is the spark. He is going to light up the ball club. He is going to light up the dugout when we're down big. Losing a guy like that definitely does hurt. And it definitely is unfortunate that he didn't really get the time in Chicago that I thought he could have had. But Isaac Paredes, let's talk about it. 2024 stats, 245 batting average, damn near doubling Christopher Morel's. Not really, but almost. 199 versus 245 is a huge difference for this ball club who cannot score runs. I mean, they've had over 50 men left on bases since the All-Star break. 16 home runs on the year, just 2 shy of Christopher Morel's current record. He has more RBIs with 55 and a 792 OPS. Now, career-wise, everything's pretty similar. He's pretty consistent year in and year out. A 233 batting average, 69 career home runs, attaboy, 209 RBIs and a 771 OPS. So he's over the OPS this year. Obviously, this is going to be one of his career years, OPS-wise. Home runs, he's on pace for over 30 home runs on the year, so he would definitely be one of the better bats in the Chicago Cubs lineup. And then defensively, he's a much better third baseman. He's well-rounded, and I think you can make an argument right now that he might not even be the third baseman of the Chicago Cubs. And when I say that, I don't mean he can't handle it. I just mean if you think this is the last trade that the Cubs are going to make, let's pump the brakes really quick. He could end up being the replacement for Nico Hoerner for all we know. I don't know. But his versatility is why we even have that conversation, because he's able to play first base, second base, third base, shortstop at a very elite level. So I love it, man. I'm excited about it. I think his ceiling is much higher than Christopher Morel's, if I had to say so myself. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Now, the two prospects that were traded away, obviously, Christopher Morel's getting hugs in the dugout right now. It was really emotional to see him with Tommy Hotovy and company. But if we're going to be completely honest, the other two prospects we gave away, I'm not too upset about. The biggest one would be Hunter Bigge, who we did get to see a little bit. We saw he's a flamethrower. Obviously, this is a guy, who is going to be good for quite some time. He's very young. They kind of rushed him a little bit to see what he had at the big league level. And Ty Johnson, who's another arm. He's currently in South Bend, so he traded a AAA arm and a AA arm, and Christopher Morel in exchange for really an all-star caliber third baseman. So, I love what we're doing right now. I know a lot of people feel like this is like Jeimer Candelario 2.0 of what we did last season, but it's much bigger than that. It is much bigger than that. And the biggest part of that is because unlike Jeimer Candelario, who was a rental for the Chicago Cubs, Isaac Paredes is under team control until the end of 2027. So this is great for the Cubs. He's 25 years of age. This is not a guy in his 30s who's going to be a free agent in the next year or two. This is a guy who's going to be here for quite some time, and hopefully we can get an extension at some point. But I'm excited about this. I think it's really dope. I think it's a great move for the Cubs. I didn't expect it whatsoever. We were under the impression that this team was going to be sellers, and I guess in a way we still are. I guess you could say like this is kind of a sell to buy kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're giving away Christopher Morel, which is obviously a cornerstone piece of this current roster. But, and you're also giving away two top arms, and they're not top of the top, but they're decent. You know what I mean? They're decent arms that, one's already seen the big leagues. And the other one is only in South Bend, but he has a lot of promise himself, and Ty Johnson. So, I'm excited for what this means for the Chicago Cubs. Now, if you were to say today, the Chicago Cubs don't trade Nico Hoerner, and you have an up-the-middle defense of Nico Hoerner, Dansby Swanson, and Cody Bellinger in your hot corner, and left field is Ian Happ and Isaac Paredes. First base, Michael Busch. You got right field, Isaiah Suzuki. You have a pretty solid ball club. Now, I would still love for them to trade for a catcher, whether that's Shea from the Oakland A's or whether that's Connor Wong from the Boston Red Sox. I have no idea. Danny Jensen just got traded to the Red Sox, pardon me. So, that's not happening. The Cubs were potentially in on him earlier in the last couple months. So, it's going to be interesting to see what the Cubs do. Obviously Nitto and Amaya aren't the guys that I want to rock out with the rest of the season, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go after a catcher right now, because you have guys like Moises Balestros knocking on the door in AAA Iowa. So, the Cubs made a move today. I'm excited. This isn't a move I expected. Like I said, I didn't anticipate this whatsoever. There were rumors earlier today, that teams like the Dodgers were potentially interested in a guy like Isaac Paredes. So the fact that the Cubs scooped them up is phenomenal. You know what I mean? So this is going to be a huge part for our bat. This is going to be really exciting to see what the team does moving forward. I think there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. Obviously, like I said, it really just depends and hinders on what we do in the next couple 24 to 48 hours. That's really what it's going to come down to. It's really going to come down to, is Nico Hoerner still on the roster? Because here's my thing, right? If Nico Hoerner's not on the roster, say Nico Hoerner gets traded, then you could potentially put Isaac Paredes at second base, bring up BJ Murray or James Triantos, put them at third, or you could even keep Paredes at third and have, James Triantos come up and be your second baseman of the future. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's so many different ways it can go right now. Only time is going to tell. Make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already. Super important to get all Chicago Cubs and Chicago sports updates every single second of every single day. We are on it. As you can tell, we're already here right now. We were ready for a trade to happen as we were watching. I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't even watching the Cubs game. I was watching Shameless. I'm in season 7, episode 1. Shout out to him. But they just threw Frank in the river, which was insane. But yeah, man, we're up to date all the time, keeping you guys up to date with everything going on, everything Major League Baseball. This was just a quick reaction to the Christopher Morel trade. I will be going live later tonight with Michael Powers as we discuss MLB trade deadline as a whole. Jazz Chisholm Jr. to the New York Yankees. Obviously, so many moves between the Baltimore Orioles, Los Angeles Dodgers, Red Sox, everything around the sun. Now the Chicago Cubs, even the New York Mets got a hand in it. They get Jesse Winkler. Going to be really exciting to see what happens. But until then, man, I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you check us out at Give Us a Shot Network. You can find the link in the bio below to all of our social medias. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram at theshy.kid. Until then, peace. Morel, we love you.